5 business hacks for growth. So I thought I'd sort of change the focus and talk a bit about some of the things I've learned along the way in growing my business and, share that with you. So hopefully you get a few takeaways from this. That's my website. As you can see, a little Shark Tank logo. I'm a fellow Shark Tanker as well. That's my website. You can check it out, thepartypeople.com.au. Just incidentally, after this talk, I will put my details up, and you can always email me if you need the presentation, so I don't need to take photos and all that sort of stuff. I'm happy to send out the details later. So this is what I'm going to talk about. First, being agile, and I'll explain what that is. How to have an endless marketing budget, which also links into what Lauren was saying a little bit. PR and influencer marketing, government grants, and the sharing economy. So I'll just go through those. So being agile. So the Party People was launched online in 1998, so quite early. And this is one thing we learnt probably the most out of everything in those early days was that there's 3 ways that we could win online, and that was either being first, being smarter, or cheating. And a lot of our competitors were cheating back then, and they were beating us on Google, getting better rankings and things like that, but they certainly paid the price in the long run, and now we rank number 1 for all our generic terms. So certainly playing the long game is important, and cheating is never going to work. Being smarter, it's pretty difficult when you're up against big companies like, most of us guys here are small to medium, and we're up against, the big guys that have whole teams of people that are thinking all day about how they can make digital work, and it's pretty hard to be smarter than those guys. So for small guys like us, we like to be first. That's the way to do it. So when I talk about agile, I'm talking about, being an early adopter, being agile, thinking about what's changing, and basically getting in early when you see an opportunity. It's about embracing change. I guess it's probably a little more than that. It's actually about being passionate about change, and that's what I was in the early days when I took over the Party People. Like I said, we were the first online party store, and we continued that trend. So Google launched AdWords in 2003. We became their first customer in Australia. Then Bing launched. We were actually on board with them before they even launched in Australia. We went and approached them, and we were geo-targeting Australia by advertising in Asia and geo-targeting Australia. Same with Facebook. We were a case study with them. We did an incubator program with them where they were testing the market here. So, we kept being early in the market, and that's something that was a huge advantage, particularly with things like Google. Every time they changed something, we were right there trying to figure out what was going to change. As soon as it changed, we jumped on board really early. And the advantages were massive. Like I said, as their first customer, we were paying 1 cent a click. I mean, most people in this room probably never heard of anything like that. And it was just amazing, it was just amazing what was going on. And then as they launched new products, new changes, we were obviously trying to pilot. We were hitting up Google about getting on the betas and just trying to test everything and trying to figure out what works and actually dipping our toe in, I guess is the way to explain it, and trying to learn quickly about how we need to use that to best become our, use it as a competitive advantage. Certainly as a small business, I think it's the biggest competitor we have over the big guys, which is we're able to test things, try things, be quick and agile and adapt while they're still trying to figure out, let's launch on AdWords and let's get started, you know what I mean? So that's something that's big with us here at the Party People. People often always ask me, they're like, how do you stay on top of it? And, a few guys here that I met earlier said, you're at all the conferences, I see you every time. And everyone's laughing that knows me in the room. That's part of the reason. I mean, I'm always trying to figure out, I'm talking to other retailers, I love networking, I welcome everyone to come and have a chat with me afterwards because I really want to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, and share stuff. I'm more than happy to share about myself and love learning what other people are doing, because often what I find is that, someone in fashion is hacking stuff that is a small problem for me, but I can really learn a lot from that, and vice versa. I might be hacking stuff in digital marketing that I'm really good at that I can share, and so I find I learn a lot more from other retailers than I do from actually going to these conferences and listening to speakers, believe it or not. And also I've subscribed to a lot of things, so I get a lot of junk mail in my inbox, and I just scroll through those and see what interests me, and I have a read. And a lot of these sort of publications, they'll come out with things that are right at the front of the market, just as they're hitting the market, or telling you what other people are doing and how they're innovating. The next one I'm going to talk about is the uncapped marketing budget. It's something that I guess I learnt quite early and sort of figured out, and then just really launched our business. So the party people, my parents started the business, and I took over in 2007, I think it was. And one of the things we noticed, we were doing a little bit of business online. I'd actually run the digital business from the beginning, but my parents had hamstrung me on our budgets with marketing. You know, for them it was all about Yellow Pages, spending 50 grand on Yellow Pages, and I was like, this is just craziness. You know, we're spending money on Google, I'm getting results. Why the hell can't I go harder at this? And that's where I started trying to build a business case for my parents to say, no, this is all wrong. You know, look, this, you know, we're paying $1 and we're getting a customer from it, and we're getting a $100 customer. Like, this is amazing. How can we do more of this? And they're going, no, you got it all wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. And so when my parents handed the business over to us, we straight away lifted the budgets on all our advertising, and we just went through the roof, 300% growth straight away. And the reason we were able to do that, it wasn't just a blind, let's just cut the budgets. What we knew was, we knew what our formula was to acquire customers, which is what kind of, I think Lauren was alluding to a little earlier. So we actually have a formula for it, which is what I'm going to share with you. So we knew at the time, we kept this very simple. This is a very complicated formula as you go down the hole with it. But to keep it simple, at the time when we started, we were just saying, look, what's our average sale? You know, we weren't looking at lifetime value because Google had all sorts of issues with attribution and things like that. So we looked at average sale. We worked out what was our cost to actually service a customer, so our variable cost. We're not looking at every cost, but we're also not looking at things like rent and all that sort of stuff. We were looking at, what does it cost my guys that are running around the floor to pick those orders? What's that wage cost? What's the cost of packaging materials? What's the shipping cost, and what's my recovery on that shipping? All the components that it cost me to service a customer, I put them through my P&L and was able to break down my P&L, make sure my accountant was managing my P&L that way. So I knew what that number was to service from a variable cost point of view. And that told me how much I could spend on my marketing. So I knew that, I was getting an average order of, just, argument's sake, and this is pretty close to reality for us. We were getting an average sale of $100, and it was costing us, after all our costs, it was $85 to service that customer with the stock and all the picking costs and everything included, and we were left with $15. Now, that $15 that we had left could pay, obviously fractionalize our fixed costs and pay them down, or at some point, once they all get paid down, they become profitable. And by knowing that number, we were able to scale our marketing, because we were able to look at things like eBay and go, okay, cool, well, it's going to cost me 10% to list. Done. I get 5% back every time I get a sale. Great, let's go on that. Every time we did a Google ad or launched something new with AdWords or whatever it was, Bing, we were always looking at that cost per acquisition and working out how much can we afford to spend. So if we were bidding on ads and it was costing us $20 to acquire a customer, we were refining that, or we were cutting it. And we've done a lot of things like that. So we've dropped a lot of sales, probably similar to what Kid Stuff done. We've dropped a lot of sales that were not profitable for us as we refine this strategy. So actually, what I mean by saying earlier that it gets more complicated, we actually started breaking this formula down by channel online. So we're looking at eBay and trying to break this formula down separately for eBay, separately for different AdWords. We found that product ads were delivering us a lower average sale, and same with eBay, lower average sale. So it was a completely different formula to work out what do we need? What's the cost that we'll allow to acquire that customer? And we do some stuff that's pretty extreme. So if we make $1, we're happy in a lot of cases. If we can make $1 on an order, we're happy. And so we'll use the formula like that. Certainly you want to make a lot more, but we know that if the choice between getting that order or not, and we make $1, well, let's take it. So we're certainly using this formula, and this was the most important thing. I think a bit what Lauren was saying earlier is knowing this thing was the most important thing for us to scale in the early days. So that's the example I just gave you. And it applies to everything in digital. We applied it to everything from, like I said, Google, auction sites like eBay, affiliate marketing, banner advertising, directory sites, everything. We were looking at our Google Analytics to work out what is our conversion on that, what was it costing us, and was it working? And we cut a lot of things as a result of them not meeting our formula. The other thing the only caution, I guess, with this is the biggest thing is attribution. Be really careful of that, because I think a lot of people here kind of understand what attribution is. It's that 1 + 1 equals 5 or 1, depending on what you're doing. But certainly with attribution, what we found is that it's very tricky, and we used analytics on a last click basis. there's a lot of arguments to suggest whether you should or shouldn't use last click. We use last click because we thought at least it's more of a worst case scenario. So if this formula works on a last click basis, then everything else on top of that will be cream, and we'll go in that, we'll go along that basis. So be careful of attribution, and continually track results. So with AdWords, to give you an example, we had about 3 million keywords. We were using this formula at quite a detailed level on all of that. Okay, so the next one's PR and influencer marketing. I guess probably for me, certainly we do a fair bit of stuff around influencers, and like Lauren said, or being on Shark Tank was an amazing PR opportunity, and it really opened our eyes to things we could do to grow our business, and PR was a big one, and it's certainly something I focus a lot on even today, is getting ourselves in the media, but probably not for reasons you think. Certainly there's value in building your brand and all those things, getting sales from your thing. But for us, the biggest actual benefit we think is actually SEO. The fact that we're out there in the media, and I've got links back from Sydney Morning Herald and Channel 7 and SBS and all these shows that we've appeared on, is huge. Google thinks we're massive, and it's a bit like faking it till you make it. Google thinks we're bigger than Big W in Party. They think we're bigger than all these companies, and we're really, not. So Google... we've built a brand around doing PR and building our business so that Google, the SEO values are massive from that sort of stuff. It's kind of going back to the roots of what you should be doing with SEO anyway. I believe PR is almost the new SEO. It's going, well, do great stuff, be in high authority places that people trust, and you'll get those links and Google will love you for it. So it's something we do a lot of. So explain there the different benefits. We use a lot of different sites. We definitely reach out to a lot of influencers and media, particularly trying to make a good story. I guess definitely the thing I think that I hear a lot is that people try to pitch stories that they think are amazing and they're just average, and the media doesn't care about that. What they want is something that's current, new, and exciting, and it has to be, just amazing. So when you think of something, you really need to build a story around stuff. Like I certainly have a pitch that I use a lot, but I certainly tailor it specifically every time, I mean, we have a great story. My mum was a clown. She started the business. The media loves that, and I use that for all it's worth. But at the same time, you've got to tailor the message so that you can get in that, in that particular media or whatever it is. So right now, we're talking to the media about Halloween. We're saying, look, we can tell you the 10 best-selling products, or here's what's new this year, or here's the trends in Halloween. And we're really sort of reaching out to them to try to give them, thinking about who are their users, or who are their readers, and how can we give them a story that their readers are going to love. It probably also lends a bit on like why I'm here speaking. I mean, certainly speaking is a PR opportunity for me. I love it. It's great. I can connect with great people. It results in good networking opportunities. And hopefully there's some media in the room that wants to write a story about what I'm talking about, so I can get another backlink. The sharing economy. So I thought this is obviously quite relevant because the glamour's on, but certainly we've used it for business purposes a lot lately. And we really sort of found some really big business savings in that we can use sites like Freelancer and Airtasker for one-off tasks that typically would cost me locally $180 an hour, where I can be paying someone in India $5 an hour, and the quality's literally better. It's just crazy. I mean, these guys support it. They love it. They're pumped that you're paying them $5 an hour, and you're thinking, this is just ridiculous. I'm going to give that guy an extra $10 just because I'm pumped with the results I got. And then they love you for it, and you can keep in touch with them and use them again. So I use it for all sorts of things. If I want to scrape a site, I call up my guy in India that I've now worked with a few times. If I want to get some information, I put it over to them. So there's so many different tasks that you do every day that you could just outsource for someone, and we do that a lot now, and we're constantly challenging ourselves internally. What can we do to outsource? What can we use these sites for? So I've put them up there. Freelancer, Airtasker is one. Obviously, we've got the delivery services there. Go People, Zoom to You, who is a crowdsourced delivery service. So we're using those guys now. We're finding them much cheaper and even better service than traditional delivery options. Spacer, if you've got some spare warehouse space. Fiverr we use occasionally if we think a job would get out of it for $5. So we use that. And Upwork's another one we use occasionally as well. So we're certainly using all these things, and I find there's something that business people forget about. They use it in their everyday lives, but they're not using it in business. And I think it's something that we should really think about as business owners and how we can actually leverage the sharing economy for business efficiency. And the last one I'm going to talk about is, or the second last one I think, is it? Grants. We've used government grants, both of these grants that I mentioned there, the Export Market Development Grant and the R&D grant, and they're fantastic. We've netted heaps. We're talking over 6 figures in money we've got back from the government by doing grants. And what I would think is that, I mean, we saw a few hands earlier of how many online retailers. I reckon most online retailers, nearly all of you, would be eligible for the Export Market Development Grant, even if you're not exporting right now. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Come and talk to me later. I'll explain to you how to do it. The biggest hack with this, I would say, is that there are companies out there that will do the grant on a success fee basis. Now, in the beginning, I knew how much our grant was potentially going to be. I thought I'd do it myself, and then it sat there for 3 years, and I never got to it. It just sat on the bottom of my list, and I never did it. And then when someone said, I'll do it on a success fee basis, I was like, oh, this is sick. I'm never going to do this anyway. So you can have your 20% success fee because I'll never do it. And then they got me a massive 6-figure grant, and I was pumped. So get out there, just find a company to do it. I'm happy to put in touch with my company that did it for me, and get them to do a grant for you, because if they don't get you the grant, it costs you nothing, and if you get it, you're getting money that you wouldn't get otherwise. I'm out of time, and that was the last one, so lucky. So yeah, send me an email if you need anything, or if anything you want to get from the slides. I'm more than happy to help out, and would love to connect with some people. So yeah, come and say hi. Cheers.